What's up, everybody? I'm Kyle Carlson, and this is the Rollback BMX Podcast, the #1 BMX podcast in the universe, according to me. This week's guest is Daniel Dhers. There's a good chance you know who Daniel is from watching him win X Games and do tours and FIS events, but that's not really what we talked about. We primarily discussed Daniel's South American roots, growing up riding BMX in Caracas, Venezuela, and all the shadiness that comes along with it. Daniel's story comes complete with all sorts of robberies and murders and other sorts of madness. So check it out, give it a listen, and here is the Rollback BMX Podcast with Daniel Dhers. So you grew up in Caracas.
I grew up in Caracas until I was 16, and then I moved to Argentina.
Were you in the heart of Caracas, or were you on the outskirts? Or
Yeah, I was in the city. I mean, not in the downtown area. That's like probably the worst part you want to be.
Is where you were pretty shady as well?
Not my area. The thing is, like, you can get robbed anywhere at any time. It doesn't matter if you live in the best part of this town or in the worst part of the town. It's just how it is. Like, if I'm walking down my street, I'm constantly looking around everywhere. Like, it's not like you consciously do it, but you unconsciously, seriously know what's going around you at all times. It's just, you hear a motorcycle and just kind of by the sound of it, it's like, okay, this is a guy that could potentially rob me. So you already automatically look. If you see, people walking the street that look kind of, that they don't belong to that place, you probably cross the street. Like, all those things that they kind of stereotyped in the States, we actually do it over there. Just
for good reason.
Yeah,
it's
because
not completely random or anything.
I feel like maybe in the States, there's not as much confrontation when it comes to robbery. I don't know. Obviously, like, I always lived in very secluded places from, like I never lived in New York or places that big cities. But yeah, in Caracas, it's very confrontational. It's not like, hey, come here, man, let me talk to you. It's kind of like, here's my gun, what you have. There's no, like, trying to sugarcoat it. They make it as quick as they can.
So, did you ever get robbed? Was there anything like that, or?
One time I was riding at my friend's Rams in his office, and we left there like 1 a.m. And so it's my friend Eddie and my friend Pedro, rest in peace. We were going to Pedro's house because I can't remember, he maybe owed me like $2. And so I want my $2 back. This is back in the day when like money was kind of an issue. And so okay, cool. You have to go up this hill, and we're pedaling, and just like, I don't know, half a block before turning into his house, into his apartment complex, these two cars are coming like in the wrong way. And, I don't think much of it. It's like, oh, they probably know him and they're just messing with him. And, I see that he, like, jumps on the curb as they're kind of like, it looks like they're going to run him over. But
you guys are on bikes?
We were on bikes, yes. And so Pedro's in front of me, and then Eddie's on my left side. And these two cars, like, one of them just started kind of going at Pedro. And I'm like, okay, he's kind of going to run him over. It's probably just joking with him. And he jumps on the curb. I jump on the curb, and when I turn, both, like, people from both cars just came out with guns pointing at us, like, give us your bike. And at that moment of panic, everything kind of slows down, and I look at them and I look at Pedro, and I see Pedro just taking off, like, kind of ducking down. So I did the same. I just ducked down, pedaled as fast as I could. Eddie, somehow, he like swerved between both cars, and luckily they didn't shoot us. They didn't start shooting at us. And Eddie turns left, which is a dead end, and we turn right, which is the apartment, Pedro's apartment. And the car did around. They went around, and luckily there was like a huge van in front of us, so we kind of like, as they were coming one way, we were behind it and just moved accordingly as they passed. And then Eddie, he threw his bike over a wall, and then he hid under a car. And these two cars, they drove by, and then they didn't see us, so they left. That was kind of crazy. But there's all sorts of stories. There was there's a square we used to go ride, and apparently these riders were there, and there was a conflict with someone there. Like, I can't remember if it was a rollerblader or a breakdancer, or maybe just a thug.
A BMX rider had a conflict with somebody. Yeah. So somebody you were tight with.
Yeah, well, I knew them. They're cool. We're cool. But the good thing is just how BMX was back in the day. Everybody was cool with everyone. So, you know, you might not be the closest friends, but you were cool with everyone.
Yeah.
And this guy, he had a problem with someone. Can't remember, they told him to not ride the rail or something happened. And I guess this guy pushed him or something. And he's like, hey, man, I'm going to come back. I'm going to stab you. And he's like, ha, 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 ha. Because it was like maybe 10, 15 of them. So he went to his house, he grabbed the knife, he came back and he stabbed this guy in the neck. And it was crazy. We obviously couldn't go back to that place for years because as soon as they saw a BMX rider, they wanted to kill him. But yeah, you know, on both ends, like there were BMX riders that didn't take much from anybody. And, you know, obviously the elements of the streets, they are kind of trying to get you.
I mean, I guess there's something to the honesty. He said he was going to stab you and he did.
Yeah, I guess so. And you know, and it's crazy because, you know, there are people that look for trouble, but most bike riders never really look for trouble. If anything, we're the ones getting in trouble. When you road places, they will kick you out. But
so you would still get in trouble for riding there, even though there's so much real crime.
Yeah, well, the security guards will never let you ride things.
Are the security guards down there like hard dudes, or are they just like standard American security guards?
Standard security, yeah. I mean, maybe an armored truck guy is pretty gnarly and they will actually shoot you.
Yeah.
Like they walk with their finger in the trigger, like ready to shoot.
Like you look at them the wrong way and they...
I don't know.
They sneeze and they pull the trigger.
It could be. You wouldn't mess with these guys. But no, security guards are regular over there. It's just kind of... You know, over there you somewhat rather encounter... Yeah, security guards are the least of your concerns. They were just annoying because they won't let you ride.
Yeah.
But
so you said your friend Pedro is dead.
Yeah, but that had nothing to do with crime. He died. He had a pulmonary problem or something. He passed away.
Sucks.
But the guy that you know, it's crazy because I always consider him like the guy that taught me how to ride and learn tricks and bunny hop and do certain things. Last year when I was in Canada, he had a motorcycle shop. And it's crazy because I didn't see him for years, and every time I saw him, or anytime we talked, you know, I could feel the happiness in his voice. Like, man, that's cool. You went to the stage. You did this that we were just doing as a hobby. And you know, he was a bit crazy, but I love this guy. He was awesome. He taught me. Without him, I wouldn't be here.
How long ago did he die?
So last year in Canada, I get a text one day, when I went at feast. And I was like, hey, man, just want to let you know, Abraham passed away. He got shot in his shop. So apparently somebody went in and he fixed his motorcycle. And the guy, they wanted to pay him or something. And it's like, dude, you know, they went into conflict. And the guy, I think he left and came back with a gun. I don't know why. It seems like people leave and come back for trouble.
You think they would carry the gun or knife in the first place?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure. I can't remember that part, but what I remember is that apparently he shot him twice because he wanted to get his motorcycle. My friend Abraham, who was crazy, he grabbed the gun and tried to like take it off him. So this guy just basically emptied the clip and he passed away. And it sucked. You know, this was I think the day before FIS finals or something in Canada last year, and maybe like 15 hours, 20 hours later, I got a couple other messages of other people. Hey, man, Abraham passed away. Just so you know.
Is that a guy you rode BMX with as well? Abraham?
Yeah, he's the guy that taught me how to bunny hop. And
Are Abraham and Pedro the same person?
No, earlier I mentioned it was a different story.
Okay, yeah.
Pedro passed away of pulmonary problems.
Okay.
Another story, Abraham, the guy that introduced me to riding, he got shot in his shop and he passed away. And then next day I'm getting messages throughout the day like, hey, this happened. And in one of those messages, maybe like 20 hours later, it's like, justice was served. That guy is now dead. Like the guy that shot Abraham.
Street justice.
Street justice. Yeah, there was no like, I guess somebody knew the name or saw him.
Do you even call the cops there? I mean, do you involve the authorities or do you just handle it and move on?
I think if you're an upper, you know, mid class, like a person that doesn't have people from the street, you probably would, even though nothing's really going to happen.
I'm assuming the police there are corrupt.
Yeah, quite a bit. His corruption is a big problem in all South America. Venezuela, obviously, with the years of, you know, economic issues, the police has become somewhat of an issue. I remember plenty of times getting pulled over at checkpoints, and they'll try to pick whatever it is. Like, you have your driver's license. Okay, cool. Where's your medical certificate? Okay, cool. Hey, show me the lights of the car. They always try to pick on something, and once you have something that, let's say, was not by regulation, they'll be like, oh, that's a fine, but we can probably sort this out for less. And one time I got pulled over. I had a rental car because at this point I didn't live there anymore. And this guy's like, hey man, I need your driver's license. So I give him my US one, and he's like, hey, you can only have this for 3 months in Venezuela. Where's your passport? I was like, well, it's in my house. I've only been here for like 4 or 5 days. It's like, well, since you don't have your passport, the fine's gonna be, I don't know, like $200. And I was like, well, cool, man. Yeah, give me the fine. That's okay. And he's like, okay. So he leaves. They leave me waiting there for like half hour. Another guy comes back. He's like, hey, what's the issue? So I tell him. And, after a 30-minute discussion, he's like, hey, man, well, you're going to have to take the fine. And that's like $600. And I was like, yeah, that's fine, man. That it is what it is, They leave. They let me wait. They make me wait another like 40 minutes.
So you're just sitting there. Nobody's attending you. You could have just left.
Well, they have motorcycles, so if they see you leaving, they will catch you, and then it becomes worse.
Gotcha. Okay.
But I had the time to spare. You beat them by just waiting
them out.
Yeah.
Filibuster effect.
So the third guy comes in, and he seemed like the friendliest. And hey, what's up, man? Oh, dude, I'm trying to help you out there. Like I'm telling the guys, but the fine is $1,000. And I was like, yeah, man, like it is what it is, like I'd even argue like now it got more expensive because I already know what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, man, and also you're gonna have to walk home because we're gonna have to impound the car, and you're gonna have to do the paperwork. The car will not be released in 10 days. I was like, yeah, that's fine. The car's rented, so you can take it tomorrow morning. I'll go to the rental place and I just get a new one. So yeah, that's fine. Just give me the ticket. And the guy looked at me. He's like, dude, there's no way to beat you, man. Just go. And that was it. It was like, damn.
I appreciate that when people could admit defeat.
Yeah, the guy was like, can't beat you, man. Just go.
Like, okay, you've been in the United States of America learning some brain skills. So when you were growing up riding BMX in Caracas, was it expensive and or difficult to get bikes?
Yeah, definitely expensive. Definitely hard. So the first few years, there were a few bike shops. You could somewhat find some racing stuff. And this is 1998, so this is when Mira got really big and we started getting Haro bikes in. But you could only get, they were expensive. So it wasn't like, oh, you're just going to go buy the latest Haro bikes, Like, it took you time to gather the money and do this. And then if you bought it, you hope that you wouldn't break anything. You basically hope that this bike will be eternal. Because yes, things were expensive. There were only two brands, Haro and GT, and then later on Primo arrived in the country. So you were able to kind of you have more brands, which were 3. But,
was there a distribution, or was one of the shops acting as a distributor?
So there was a Haro distro, and then the GT distro. He also brought Primo. And then randomly here and there you'll hear like a bike shop had like a Damon back, and you're like, holy shit, we have to go see this.
Just go look at it.
Yeah, and you'll see this fucking Viper frame. You're like, whoa. And then, if anybody had that bike, it was like, dude, you had the one unique bike,
That's cool. Yeah.
So it was really cool. And this is before I rode, but from like 1994 to like 98, 99, they weren't bikes coming in. So like you had like this crew of guys that had bikes from 94 and before, and then you had like 98 and above. So
I feel like that's a big transitional period when bikes kind of modernized. Like early 90s, late 80s, those are kind of like the old school bikes.
Yeah.
So is that kind of how it was?
Yeah, you see these guys had like a bunch of bikes from the 80s. I remember this guy had a Haro Master from 94, I think it is. That had the twin top tube.
Yep.
And
back when they actually did it, not as a throwback.
Yeah. And it was crazy because that was like the latest bike. And a friend of mine had a Hoffman Big Daddy, and he got it from the States, and he was like, dude, this is the fucking Bugatti of bikes right here. So
if you have a Hoffman Big Daddy you get from the United States, by the time he does that and pays the import and everything, is that a $500 frame? I mean,
Man, I can't really remember prices. I think the way we got things was like if somebody traveled, you're like, hey man, can you bring this or this, and then, obviously you can't find in the States, they wouldn't pay import taxes, they're bringing it with them in their luggage. It was inconvenient, yes, but
yeah.
But this is maybe a couple guys like were able to do it every once in a while. It wasn't like, oh, everybody does it all the time. It definitely wasn't easy. And once you had like something, I remember Christmas was like obviously the big time of the year where you got the sprocket, the grips, and the new tires. And holy shit, you will put, my friend Rafa, he would cut a hose in half and put this fucking hose inside the tire so he wouldn't get flat tires. And for some reason, I want to say he thought the tire will last longer because the punctures wouldn't happen, or I don't know, crazy thinking, but he didn't get a flat tire for like 2 years. The bike weighted,
I was gonna say
60 pounds,
especially on the wheels, the rotating weight.
It didn't matter then. It was like we used to travel, we used to ride around with a fanny pack with, dude, every single possible tool you can imagine. We could have fixed your house. We had everything. We had to have like 20 pounds in this fucking fanny pack. We will have like a huge a candle so we could wax random things in the streets. Like we'll see the sidewalk that was, a couple inches
just over peg height.
Yeah, or just over peg height. You're like, all right, time to wax this motherfucker.
What was your first bike? Your first BMX bike?
I had a GT knockoff, so it looked like a GT Performer or a Pro Freestyle from around that 97, 98. But yeah, it didn't have the GT seal in the back of the. This is when this top tube was like pierced in the back.
Yep.
And the GT stamp used to be there, and this one didn't have it. But the whole bike looked like a replica, so it was like, I felt gangster as hell, man.
Did you get it from a bike shop, or?
I got it out of a bike shop, and I remember, so I had to be 12. And I remember, just doing odd jobs, trying to save money, and then, begging my parents, like, to help out. As a kid, there's not much you can do. And I think we haggled with this guy for maybe 6 months. Like, every few days, I would show up. I was like, hey, man, seriously, you cannot give me a discount? And I can't remember.
Was it that very bike? Like you picked the bike out and that's the bike you wanted?
Yeah, I mean, there was the only freestyle bike. The bike had a gyro. And this is the first time I see a bike with a gyro at a bike shop. I only knew the gyros existed because this other guy had like a Dyno Slammer from 94. And he had a gyro. And this was like, holy shit, this is the holy grail of parts. If you have the gyro, you will never have to like rotate your bars like to unwind the cable again, and brakeless wasn't really an option then. You were probably considered insane if you were in brakeless.
Well, I'm assuming most of them used bikes for transportation as well.
Kind of. So bikes used to get stolen a lot back at home, so that was like an issue for years. So like if you didn't have to ride bike, you probably wouldn't. And we had all sorts of weird techniques to make sure people wouldn't steal it. You would put like nipples in the chain, and if somebody went to try to pedal, it will lock on the chain wheel so they couldn't pedal, and then probably
panic and just drop the bike and run.
Or it gives you time to grab this guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, what else, man? You would tie the bike with a rope to something, or you would like intertwine all the bikes together, like make a huge pile.
Yep.
People still do stuff like that, but you always left someone with the bikes. I think maybe, I don't know now because things are crazy, but for a while it kind of chilled out. People weren't stealing. So you would get pulled over by the cops on your bike and they'll ask you for the receipt of the frame.
Even though you're just out riding and you bought it 5 months ago?
You have to have the receipt.
So did you actually carry that stuff?
Yeah. Wow. That was like having your car registration. And you have to match the serial number of the bottom bracket to the receipt. So like, dude, and especially with these bikes from overseas, sometimes you didn't really have the receipts, and you had to kind of make them.
Or had a serial number on the receipt. It would just say FBM Angel of Death. It wouldn't.
Yeah. So, if everything was in English, you kind of got away with it, but it was something that it was always weird. It's like, dude, it's just a bike.
So, growing up in Caracas, were there actually skate parks and things to ride, or were you primarily riding street and dirt jumps, or how did you really get your start?
Started riding just around my block. Then I did flatland for a while. I met this guy, Abraham, that passed away. He rode street, and I remember him telling me, "Hey, there's a skate park in this place. One day I'll take you," you know. And
I assume he was older than
yeah,
you?
yeah. He had to be, I don't know, 8-10 years older than me.
Gotcha.
And the first day I went to the skate park, I was like, dude, this is what I want to do. So we had a skate park. This was in like a second story, and it had no fence around the park. So like if you ejected to the side of the ramp, you died. You fall into.
So it was outdoor, but second story?
Yeah, it had like a ceiling, but it was open on the sides.
Gotcha.
And you had a boxing that was 4 feet wide, and you had a column on the left, and you had the only place that was kind of enclosed was the right side of this, and the boxing was all the way there, so you couldn't 360 or anything because you would hit your wheels on this wall. Then you had a 10-foot that had a column in the middle, so you have to air around this or just on the side of it. And the mirror run was like, I think 7.5 foot. One side was over with the coping sticking out up and outside, so you couldn't really air this.
Nice.
And the other side had like half a coping. It was up to vert, but it had half a coping, so yes, it's still kind of stuck out. So like if you hit it, you kind of bounce to the flat bottom.
So you couldn't really air it.
It was hard. So, and we had a vert ramp. And the vert one was slightly over vert, but at the time vert was popular, so we rode vert a lot. We would ride the mini ramp a little bit. I mean, couldn't really grind it. No one knew how to grind. There was this one guy that learned how to grind, and then he just kept doing flatland. So like we always waited for him to come back so we would learn how to grind. So we rode a lot of vert. And then one day we went to the guy the on the skate park, like, "Hey man, let us fix your ramp." And fix quotation because we had no idea what we were doing. But we cut we cut both copings. My friend knew how to weld, so we grabbed, when he was cutting the one coping, he had a what's that called? It's like a flamethrower type thing to cut metal. It's a metal cutter, I guess, but it's not like a grind. This thing spits fire and you cut the ramp. So this guy is using this fucking thing, and he's cutting the coping, cutting, and all of a sudden, oh shit, I just went through the ramp. He left a huge hole in the top of the ramp because he wasn't looking. And all this without safety glasses, nothing. You were staring at this fucking grinder all the time, the welding machine, like, dude, it is ghetto. But he welded the coping that stuck out on top. So it wasn't sticking out that side anymore. It was all the way up. So you had like 2-3 inches of, like, if you peg, your peg will never touch the fucking deck. You were like leaning crazy. But you were able to air it now, at least. And we made one side a bit wider, and that was crazy too, just because it's not like we did a frame. We kind of welded one side to the little piece that was sticking out, and then kind of makeshift the other side to kind of give it support. It's really fun.
So basically, you somehow transformed from that into a real prissy bitch about what you ride.
Yeah, with the years, I enjoy the comfort of good ramps, man.
So you moved to Argentina when you were 16.
Yep.
Why did you guys move?
The time my mom wasn't working in Venezuela, and my dad needed help in Argentina, so she...
So your dad lived in Argentina already?
Kind of. He lived part-time there, part-time in Brazil, and part-time in Venezuela. I didn't see him much. He would come every few months for a few days, and that's it. But, you know, he had more responsibility in Argentina, and at this point he needed some help. So my mom had no job. She, you know, struggling a little bit. So he offered her the job to come down.
And they weren't together?
No, they haven't been together in like 30 years now. But they always remain good friends.
Yeah.
So she goes down. I remember that I was 16. I just got quotation sponsored by GT and Primo. So I got a brand new Volker with a bunch of Primo parts, a bunch of shirts, a GT backpack that I loved, and a Primo hoodie. I was like, dude, in heaven with all this stuff. And I was starting to do more events back at home. For some reason, there were more demos happening. And contests here, contests there.
In Venezuela?
In Venezuela. And when they told me I had to move, I was like, dude, I don't want to move. I'm good here. I got a sponsor. I don't need any help.
You're set for life. You got this hoodie.
Like, I got this, you know. And obviously at 16, you don't really have many needs. And So yeah, they moved first. My mom moved first, and 2-3 months later, once I was done with school, like went down, and at first I hated it.
Was this Buenos Aires or where was
Buenos
this?
Aires, yeah.
How far is that from Caracas?
An 8-hour flight.
So it's not close.
Not at all.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the other end of the continent. And I hated it at first a lot. Just, I think like I was in a really happy place in Caracas. Even with crime, with everything, it's like I love being there. All my friends are there. Everything that I know is there. And I moved to Argentina right in the middle of the winter. And, it's like, okay, the place is doing all right. And seriously, like a month later, the economy collapses. And it's like, dude, people were committing suicide and crazy shit's happening in the streets, riots every day and protests. And like the economy, the country just went to hell from one day to the other. People couldn't take their money out of their bank accounts. And people were destroying the banks. Like, dude, this was insane. And
so it was worse than Venezuela was at the time.
Yeah. Oh, dude, it was insane. And, luckily there was a skate park kind of near my house that I started going to every day. And, years later, realized that, yes, moving to Argentina was probably one of the best things that happened to me because there were a lot of good riders there already. They could backflip, they could tail whip, they could 360 double bar, they could do a bunch of stuff.
How good were you at this time? Like when you first moved away from Venezuela?
I could 360. XL was the banger.
Still is.
Still. I could tail whip, but like one-footed on the peg, I think. And I like kind of wheelie out of this thing. And I think maybe around that time I was finally getting 1 foot on the pedal. But that was it. And then when I go to Argentina, all these guys were able to do tricks. And, it's a lot easier to learn from someone that already knows what they're doing. Even if they don't explain you much, you're able to see it. And they have bigger ramps, they have better stuff. And, I learned how to build ramps a little bit better and, ride and all that stuff. It was just hard, like, in the sense of, like, I had to make new friends. I had to, like, learn a whole new culture.
The exact same way that any 16-year-old kid would feel about moving at that time of life.
Yeah. So it wasn't, like, I think it was just the wrong age in my head. Like, I don't want to move. I don't need this. And obviously, living in summer your entire life to now having to deal with winter, dude, riding to the skate park. Like, I remember showing and I couldn't open my hand from the grip just because it was cold. It wasn't like snowing or anything, but I don't know, it had to be 35 degrees and you're pedaling to the skate park and the skate park is kind of outside. It was under a bridge. So you're kind of cold the entire time. And then the summer was cool. But, years later, that skate park closed down. So we started riding street and then another skate park will pop up for a month and then that will close down. And, that happened in Argentina for years because obviously the crisis and all that stuff, like nobody had money, nobody wanted to pay to go to the skate park, all the economic problems at the time were insane. Bike parts were kind of hard to find, and Argentina already had a good distribution, like they had a bunch of different brands. But this, it was kind of like the crisis in 2008 in America, that all of a sudden everybody's kind of struggling. Obviously not, Argentina was a lot worse.
Yeah, nobody was destroying banks here.
Yeah, true. But but people felt it, a lot of people lost jobs and stuff, so that happened there too. And, and like I remember the money, the peso, you couldn't even get it. Like there was no way to get that, so the government made bonds. So you were carrying these fucking bills that were actually bonds to be paid to you in 2 or 3 years. They would give you pesos in 2 or 3 years. And then the province...
And you were using those as currency?
Yeah, that was the money.
Wow.
And some people had pesos. I mean, you treat it as equal.
Yeah.
But it was insane because all the provinces started doing that. And I remember I went to Cordoba, and that's where Maligno's from, I think. And dude, we go through a toll, and they give us this fucking bill that was seriously like you grabbed a piece of paper and you put a fucking number to this. It was insane. It looked so fake. I think it was printed only on one side too. So we're like, dude, is this even real? Can we even use this? And yeah, that was the currency in that province.
That's crazy.
Yeah, man, insane.
Did that eventually clean up?
Yeah, Argentina, they went through...
I know they had a really bad leader.
They had a very questionable leader for a while.
But she was a woman, correct?
Yeah, Cristina Kirchner. So her husband was the president before. He passed away.
And then she took over with the reign of terror.
Yeah, obviously their policies didn't work out well, in a more socialist way, and they seemed like problems were. It's kind of hard for me to say because I did not live there when she was there. Argentina always had troubles.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, you change some problems for others. Maybe, yes, it probably did get worse, and you could hear from everyone, it's like, dude, we're kind of struggling. She's out of power now. There's new guys in.
New guy's good, I think.
I heard better
People say
things.
that, yeah.
At least the country is being more open to import things, and you can change your money. So there was exchange control, kind of how there is in Venezuela, which is kind of hard to explain it. But basically, you have bolívares. You cannot go to an exchange place to get dollars. You need to go through this whole process that you most likely gonna get denied, and so there's a black market, and that's where you get money. So this happened in Argentina too, and now they don't have that anymore. There is in some way, but I think if you prove that you made the money legally, you can exchange it.
Gotcha.
So
fun and complicated, it sounds like.
Yeah, South America has a stigma, man. I don't know why. It's always been complicated and problematic. It's crazy.
When you were young and growing up riding and whatnot, were there any pro riders from South America that had kind of made it out and made it onto the pro scene?
Oh, man, I can think. When I went to Argentina, this is around the time Axel Jurgens started getting like a picture here, there in the magazines. Like he might have been in our props, or I think he started riding for McNeil.
Yep.
He had a few things going on. He was coming to the States. He was good. I think he was the first guy to do a 3-whip in Argentina. So this was like a big deal. Like Axel was really well known in Argentina for being the guy that made it out.
So was he well known kind of in all of South America?
I don't think so. Obviously there wasn't the internet then.
Yeah.
So I think it would be a bit hard. I also didn't go through the entire region at that time. Like I wouldn't know if the guys in Colombia knew about it. Like I didn't go to Colombia for years. But after Axel, then you had Alejandro Caro who came out, and he was like, I think more people knew of him.
And he's Colombian, correct?
And he's Colombian,
yeah.
Yes. I think he started riding for Red Bull. When he was the first.
He was the first South American on Red Bull for BMX riding.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think the Red Bull helmet was like the most covered thing you could have down there, and Brazil. I'm trying to think.
Diogo was the first pro in Brazil that I ever really knew of.
Yeah, they were.
I'm sure there had to be before him.
Yeah, but they didn't really go out. Mike Mora has always been probably the most insane dirt jump rider in the world, and he never really traveled. I think he tried a D tour and he ran into some problems, and then he didn't go again.
He was in Las Vegas for a bit when I was growing up, so I got to see him ride. I met him 10, 12 years ago. Yeah, and he was incredible. Insane.
Like even to this day, I know he's doing circus shows in Brazil. And it's crazy because I think he went for a session with the guys at his local trails from where he used to live, and I can't remember, dude. He was doing stuff that is like, dude, no one is touching this. Like, he's always been ahead of everyone, but he was never really a competitor, I guess. But then, Diogo definitely. I think Diogo left a bigger mark. Yeah, from the entire region. You know, obviously with the times he rode X Games. So Alejandro rode X Games. So at that point his work got out. You knew of Axel because he rode the CFB, and I think he got like 10th. But I think he blew his ACL right after, so you didn't hear from him for a while. He didn't get
to capitalize on the.
Yeah. I mean, you at that point you knew that this guy was really good.
Yep.
Like, this is probably the best guy from South America. And then around, I think years later, Alejandro came and he started doing X Games and stuff like that. And he's like, oh shit, this is the guy that's doing X Games. And
so when in your life did you actually know that doing something with BMX was actually possible? Was it when you were seeing guys like Alejandro in the X Games, or did you have ambitions beyond that at younger ages?
I don't know. As a kid, I remember just seeing Mira and Beswick and Hoffman and McCoy and all the guys on what when you watch X Games, and it was like, oh man, it'll be cool one day to learn a flare. That'll be so insane. Holy shit, and then all I wanted to do was riot and just try to get better. So once I went to Argentina, the goal was like, okay, what are the guys doing? I need to learn these tricks. And then the winter there kind of kicked me out. I was like, dude, I need to start going places. I met Tom Stover at a demo in Curacao, and he invited me to Woodward in 2004. And
were you still riding for GT at the time, or did that fizzled when you moved?
No, so when I had to go to GT, it's like, hey guys, I'm gonna leave the country. They're like, okay, bring the bike back, bring the backpack, bring the sweatshirt.
Wow.
You can actually keep the sweatshirt, but bring the backpack, bring everything else. I had to give him everything back.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that was the true sponsorship, right?
So was Stober on GT at the time when you first met him?
Ooh.
I figured there was a connection there, but it sounds like it was completely
this was
unrelated.
So at this point, I rode the Latin American X Games in Brazil a couple times maybe. And April, May, she sent me an email asking if I knew anybody in the region that could build ramps, because I guess somebody in Curacao hit up Hoffman if they could come do a demo or something. But it's not that easy to transport ramps and all that stuff. So I have my friend Ruben in Venezuela, who probably has the longest running skate park there. His ramps were portable, so I was like, yeah, I have the guy. So they got in touch, they did the demo, and they wanted a rider from the States, so they called Stober. And because we had a vert ramp, there was a vert ramp at Boxium, and Stober rode a lot of vert. He rode park too, but vert was more of his thing. And yeah, in that trip, I knew he lived at Woodward. I didn't know how to ask, I didn't know what to say, and all of a sudden it's like, hey man, if you ever want to come to Woodward, here's my email, you send me an email. It's like, holy shit, I need to go to Woodward.
Your ticket out of here.
This is it.
Did you have money at the time, or how were you able to make that happen?
The demo paid decent money, and living down there is not that expensive.
Okay.
Just saving money over the years, whatever part I had, you sell it. You kind of, also as a kid, I always save money. I never bought anything crazy. I never spent it on anything. Like I barely eat just so I could save the cash. And I think when I finally I went to Latin X Games, I get 7th, so I had to make like maybe $500-600, and I think probably had at this point, dude, like $1,500 or something.
Yeah. And
I was like, holy shit, okay, this is a good amount of money. I remember telling my parents, hey, I want to come to the States. At this point, I meet Jerry Batters. He invites me to Vans Triple Crown in Denver. Where did you meet Jerry Batters? In Brazil at the Latin X Games.
Okay.
So this is 2004. Yes, 2004. Ryan Goodler wins that one. I think. Jay Miron did this insane 270. So this is how far back it is. Jay Miron was still around. But Jerry was like, hey, if you come to the Triple Crowns, I can get your hotel and your entry fee. It's like, holy shit. So I made a trip. I think maybe my dad helped me with the ticket, and I already had the cash. So I go to Denver. Couldn't get in touch with Bader, so I never got a hotel. Luckily, my dad was like, hey, I got to go to Vegas, so I'll come to Denver with you to make sure that everything's fine, And so we went there. We were at the event. Did terrible. Ended up in like 40th or something.
Had you been to Woodward before this?
I went to Woodward West the year before with another friend.
Okay.
But I was there just for the CFB.
Okay. And you didn't do well?
I got like 40th as well.
Okay.
I can 3-whip. I can do bar to ice, bar to foof. I have all these tricks.
Like you're the man at home, but you come to the big yard.
Well, motherfucker, the contest was at the Enterprise. Like there was no preparing for this thing. You had to be a super pro. I remember showing up. I was like, I'm fucked. This is impossible. Like, where is the Boxium? The Boxium was like a step up type thing. It's like I have to hit the vertical. I don't know how to hit a vertical. I don't know what a vertical is. So like obviously I thought I was way better than I really was. But I met these guys. A friend of mine was going to California, and we talked, and I found a really cheap ticket, and he's like, dude, I'll take care of the rental car. I found a place to stay through these guys in Argentina, and then living on $5 pizzas, the Little Caesar pizzas. So I did that, and then soon after is when I go to Curacao, do the demo. I lived. There was a skate park at that point. There was a skate park in Venezuela in the city of Maturin. So I lived at the park at first, and then a friend there, he's like, hey, you're just gonna live with me, so I'll go work at the park. Right, I remember I'll close the park and I'll just go in and have a session by myself, and then I'll come back and okay, hey, I'm open. But yeah, I had somewhat cash, but again, I lived so cheap. I didn't spend on anything. At that point, I didn't really care about nutrition. It was just eat, so you can exist. And I remember, I finally go to Woodward. They let me stay there for 2 weeks. And the Sunday, the night before I was supposed to leave, I tell Stover, it's like, yo, man, I can't leave, man. This is a dream come true. I don't know what to do. I want to stay. And he's like, let's ask at camp. Let's see if they'll let you stay. And they're like, nope. So Stover's like, you know what? You stay with me. Stay at my house. Come ride the camp. And if it ever opens up, just come back. It's like, okay. So I lived with Tom for a bit.
Was he in State College or was he?
No, he lived at the Brown House. So the Woodward owned these houses right behind Woodward.
Okay, so super close.
It's super close. Yeah, you had to like kind of jump through this creek to make it. But yeah, that's it. It wasn't far. And you could walk. So yeah, that's what I did. I stayed at Woodward for like 3 months. Around that time, trying to think, Ryan Goodler used to come to Woodward quite a bit. And at some point, I remember around this time I was doing like truck to manual 180 on the spine and 3-whip manual 180 on the spine. So I had a couple of tricks that weren't that popular at the time. They were I know Hickerson were doing them, but I think besides him,
Austin Coleman did truck.
He did truck to whip, yeah, the truck Manny, and then Hickerson did 3-whip Manny. But it was kind of like, holy shit, you see this trick in the video, and then all these guys doing it here.
A guy you've never heard of.
Yeah. So I remember I blew my chance to be in BMX Plus because Ben Crockett showed up. He's like, dude, I want to shoot this sequence. I was like, okay, cool. I was like, let me do one to warm up because it's going to take me a few tries. I fucking pulled it first go. I was like, okay, just do it again. I'll shoot it. Okay, cool. This is the time of film that we went through all of his film. We never got it. So this was disappointing by the time. I remember Goodler called Batters. He's like, hey, man, this kid's really riding good. Like, is there a way you can maybe get him to California? So Vance flies me to Huntington Beach, the last stop of the Triple Crown in 2004. And yeah, I think I went. This is when I met Cameron White and Coco Zurita. I think they were doing shows for GT or Mongoose or something like that. So I remember driving to Woodward West, and Cam was driving, and he was driving on the wrong side for miles, miles until like I think there's a car coming. It's like, dude, what's that? It's like, holy shit, man, you're on the wrong side. I never realized. I thought it was just a 2-lane, but apparently it was both ways.
Did he not realize it, or did he just think he was in Australia still?
He thought he was in Australia.
That's awesome.
He was like an Australian thing. But yeah, so after that, I made $700 at that Triple Crown, went and cashed my check.
You made finals at that one, didn't you?
I made finals. Yeah, I qualified like 3rd or something, and then I ended up in like 4th. I ended up in 7th. But yeah, I got some cash. I was like, dude, when I got that money, I was like, this is it. I can buy my ticket to come back next year. I still have like a grand saved up because I didn't spend any money when I was there, or barely any money. So yeah, 2005 comes around. Dew Tour happens. I didn't. I missed to be pre-qualified for Dew Tour for like 2 spots because it was the ranking of the Triple Crown that was being taken for that, and then my fucking American visa expired, so I couldn't come to the first qualifier, and I couldn't come to the second qualifier. And I already have I called Woodward, and they were cool. At this point, we had a good relationship, and I was like, hey, man, we'd like to come for the summer if possible. Yeah, no problem. The problem with the visa happened. I get a new one. It's too late to go to the qualifiers. And Woodward was like, yeah, cool, you can still come for 3 months, even though this next month and a half is going to be off-season. So, dude, all I did was ride. I would ride 10 hours a day. I remember I was losing my mind. That year I learned most of the tricks that I wanted to. I learned front flips that year. This is the year that Goodler and Bohan are doing fronts, and that was like the new trick, and I learned that. And, double whips were really hot at the time, and learned that, and 3 double whips, and learned truck whips. This is, I think, Ben Hennon was learning around. Well, he was the first guy to do it.
You were the first guy I saw do it, but Hennon did it first.
Yeah, he did it at an event first, but we had to both be doing it around the same time. But yeah, dude, I rode insane. I remember it's like, okay, I want to learn double whips. I'll learn it. Cool. Okay, now I need to do 10 double whips every day. If I miss number 9, I need to do 10 more. And it was like such an insane repetition that, I think that's what helped me get dialed at my tricks. Just go at it as hard as I could. And I rode with Bestwick a lot. And Jamie was been a huge motivation over the years. Especially then, I remember we were doing front flips, or we were doing them in the foam. And we're about to take it to racing. It's like, okay, this is my chance to be better than Jamie Bestwick. If I go first, I will hold this against him his entire life, and I did it first. So yeah, Jamie, in your face. But yeah, just great times, man. I rode so much, and at that point, I remember I had to go home. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go. I was flying through Miami to go back to Buenos Aires, and the Baco Jam was happening around the same time in Orlando. So I went to Orlando. I went to Miami, drove with a friend to Orlando. This is when I lived off fucking noodles at Woodward. And I bought a microwave, and then at the end of my trip, I returned the microwave to get the $30 back so I could get, so I could pay for the taxi. And yeah, crazy times, man. I lived off protein powder, noodles, all the noodles. Everyone, like, going to Subway was like, okay, this is a fucking meal. And then, I had a jar of Gatorade somewhere that I'll drink here and there. And I'll steal all the Red Bull I could. Anytime Red Bull showed up at the barn, it's like, this is all mine now. And I lived off all that, man.
So you go to Baco Jam.
I go to Baco. And, dude, I was riding as hard as I could. I ended up winning the contest. I remember I did a bunch of tricks, like 3-whip tap to bar out, 3-whip tap ice fakie, 3-whip to fakie on the quarter, truck whip on the box, like, you know, kind of tricks that weren't really happening at the time. And for best trick, I ended up doing the front flip over the spine. Dorito, I thought I had already won it with, I can't remember, maybe 3-whip fakie. And Dorito goes and does the first 360 double whip on the spine. And I was like, motherfucker.
That beat the front flip over the spine?
No, at this point I hadn't done it. I was like, dude, the only thing that could possibly beat this is if I front flip the spine. Because front flips were like the holy grail of tricks at the time.
Yeah.
And I remember I tried a couple, dude, I was so beat, I was dying, and John Saxton was there, and I was like, yo, I think I'm done. It's like, no, dude, you got it, just pull it, you got it. So, all right, and so I go, and I pull it, and so I gotta tell everyone that John Saxton made me do it. These are the rules we agreed on upon the time. And yeah, I end up, I think I still got like second for best trick. I think Anthony Psycho.
He did like a wall ride to 3 down whip or something, right?
He did wall ride to whip fakie.
That's what it was. Yeah. Fakie wall ride to whip.
Yeah. And he won that. So he won a motorcycle, but second place was $1,000. And I won the contest itself, and that was $2,000. So I got $3,000. At that time, I have filmed my entire year, and I sent it to you because you were supposed to do a video, but you obviously were very responsible and never did.
Well, in my defense, I was relaxing.
But you were working at hard at the time, and the one day Tony D asked you about someone, you showed the tapes.
Pete Demos.
Oh, Pete Demos.
Pete Demos, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but he wasn't the guy to make things happen. So I think Pete had to feed it to Tony D.
Oh, okay.
So cool. It was essentially Tony D made the call, but Pete was the middleman.
Oh, okay, cool. So, all right. Thanks, Pete. Thanks, Tony.
Thank me mostly.
Shit, yeah. So I guess not making that video happen was actually the best thing that happened.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
I like to think if I made the video, they still would have seen it.
Oh, shit. Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
But maybe not.
Maybe not.
Hold on. We got to talk about a really important subject here. What the fuck was up with your teeth?
What's up? They're good now. They weren't good then.
What was it? Like, is that how they fix teeth where you're from?
No, like it would have been fixed if I would have been there, but I started doing my orthodontics.
So hold on. So you crashed and knocked your teeth out, I assume.
No, well, yes. But so in 1998, the first year I'm riding, I go to Argentina and I fucking knock. The first time my dad and my grandma came to watch me ride, I die. I get a tooth knocked out. So they put it back in. The dentist did, not them, not my parents. But the root died. And then years later, my teeth were all crazy. So the orthodontist was like, hey, we're going to do this procedure where we put what's that called? The fucking little brackets with a wire on your teeth.
I would call it the bracket with the wire.
That's what it is. And I was like, okay, cool. And they had this crazy idea of like pulling the tooth that was dead and then closing the gap with it and then filing all the other teeth, and like it was kind of insane process. I remember being really against this, but I was 15. There was not much saying. I didn't have much saying. And so yeah, at this point it's like I'm spending some time in Venezuela, spend a little time in Argentina. Like I could only complete or like continue the procedure there because the orthodontist is the one that was gonna like tighten this up and this and that. So it was kind of insane. At some point I had just a piece of string and super glue, and I would fucking super glue it to my teeth because the little rubber bands will snap. And there was no orthodontist around. I didn't trust anyone, so I would just do it myself. So it was definitely really ghetto. Even the same when I went to the States. Like the first couple of years I came to the States, I had that, and I remember, obviously it looked crazy. I had a gap between, like a big gap
between the gum and the teeth, right?
Yeah. And I remember Miro being at his house. It's like, dude, you gotta fix your teeth, man. Like, it's just how the business is. You can't
look like this.
You cannot look this insane. Like, you can look a bit crazy, but you're out of your mind right now. And I remember Dave called a dentist, and he's like, dude, I'll pay for it. I don't care. I really want to help with this. And I was like, fuck, man. I was feeling kind of bad about it. And I was like, yo, well, let me see. I might be able to do it at home. So it happens that this is the year that I win Dew Tour, and it was like 70 grand for the cup, and like, I won a few stops, and we just made a bunch of insane money going from.
So you went from making essentially probably less than $10,000 to making over 100.
Yeah, I was making $500 a month from Haro. Yeah. Plus all my travel, so I make $6 grand. And I was like, dude, I'm fucking rich. I live off $100 a month.
I can go to Subway twice a week.
Yeah. No, I thought I was fucking balling, man. It was insane, and then. So yeah, I win Dew Tour, win all this money, and just put it in the bank account. Didn't have any expenses.
So you spent that money on your teeth, or did Dave pay for your teeth?
No, so Dave didn't. I felt bad, and kind of like, he got me like an appointment or something, and I want to say I didn't go, and I went home soon after. And when I was there, I was like, Mom, I want to go to a dentist that's going to put new teeth in. Like, I need new teeth. It's just not going to work. And at this time, I was already 21 maybe. And so this procedure lasted like 8 years. This was insane. It should have lasted maybe 3, but with all my travel, it just never got completed. And so finally I found a dentist, and I think maybe paid like 15 grand for all the teeth.
15?
Yeah.
And that was in South America?
In South America, yeah. Because I had to do just a bunch of my front teeth, some of my back teeth as well, because they were all crooked and crazy.
Were you ever self-conscious about it, or was it really just Dave that was like, "Hey, man, you gotta clean it up"?
I was a bit conscious about it. I mean, I obviously wanted to have good teeth, but it wasn't like, oh fuck, this is what I need to do right now. It was like, no, I want to be a good bike rider. That's like, my rider should be able to speak more than what I look like, Later with time, it's like, I do understand, yes, if you look insane, if you're trying to get in the part of, if you want to get in the business of riding, yes, you have to have certain cleanliness. Cleanliness. Thank you. I just learned English. So yeah, and obviously Dave understood this very well, and he was like, "Hey man, you need to do this. If this is the path you're gonna take, you need to do this."
Yeah.
And Dave was super impulsive with things, so he was like, "I'll just do it right now." He just wanted to fix it. I was like, "Holy shit," So yeah, obviously he was a big motivation to get it done. I think at that point it's like, okay, now I can do this. Like, money's not an issue. The guy is telling me what to do. Like, it blows my mind sometimes when you advise someone and they're like, no, I got it. It's like, no, man, just like kind of how it happened to me. Like, Beth was giving me advice, Mira was giving me advice. Like, dude, I remember Jamie, I joked around, it's like, if Jamie told me that I could jump off this cliff and make it, I would try it, because I always thought, like, if Bestwick, this is Jamie Bestwick, he's not going to send me to die.
Yeah.
So
he knows this game a lot better than I do.
Dude.
Yeah.
So I blindly trusted him anytime I wanted to try something. And, yes, thanks to that, I was able to clean up my teeth.
How did you learn English?
With rap. So I would listen to Eminem, Dr. Dre. Snoop was probably the hardest, but I would read the lyrics at the same time. So English, so since I was a kid, I always wanted to go to the States. I figured, like, if you went to the States, everything was going to be good. The way of living there is a lot easier. There's a lot less crime. Bike riding, this is the mecca of bike riding. Bike riding is the ultimate dream, and you can do it in the States. And so I always wanted to learn English. I remember reading the magazine. I didn't know what they said, but I would try to interpret what they said. And then listening to music and read the lyrics. It's kind of hard because there's a lot of slang that I couldn't really translate. And then just coming to the States and, not speaking Spanish for months. I'll speak to my mom once a week, or send an email once a week to someone. It was just English all day. So yeah, I would translate it in my head and I couldn't form sentences well. And with time, after I started writing Due Tour, that was like the next maybe self-improvement that I did, was trying to really focus when I spoke English. So when I did interviews, I wouldn't sound fucking crazy. And this happened because two things. One, I was winning a bunch of the stuff, but Spinner kept getting interviews.
And he was getting second place, and they were interviewing him instead of you.
So I had interviews, but it seemed like he was getting more stuff. And I could understand you. Well, he's born in the United States. I understand that, but I remember this girl Sonny. She worked for Fuel TV. She did. We did a piece, and I couldn't pronounce focus. It sounded like I was saying focus. Like it sounded like I was saying fuck us type thing. And she came up to me and was like, hey Daniel, I just want to tell you, like, my boss gave me an insane hard time over this piece because you sounded insane. You need to speak better if we want to work in the future. I want to work with you. I think you have a good career ahead of you. So this will help you. It will help me, and we can make it happen. And seriously, it's like something clicked in my head, and I started like paying more attention to what I was saying, thinking before speaking, and pronouncing words better, and all those things, Yes, here and there I'm gonna make a mistake.
No, you're good. You speak better English than a lot of people that it's their native language.
Thank you. I try to pay attention, but yes, here and there I'll make a mistake. It's not. Now I don't care as much as probably did back then. Like if I was in the middle of an interview and I made a mistake, dude, I'd
start over.
Yeah, I'll basically go and cane myself in private just because like I need to learn. And after that, it helped me. After that, it was like I was starting to get more things for TV. Invited.
Did you ever take a formal course, or did you just kind of hit it hard on your own?
Just hit it hard on my own. I always done things on my own. I wish I would have gone somewhere. I have recommended that to a few people.
Yeah.
That I've seen them talk on camera and they don't know how to express their thoughts, or there's obviously a million ways to do interviews. You can look at the camera, you can look at the host. Sometimes the host voice is not in the recording, so you have to repeat the question as an answer. And I've seen some of these guys do interviews. That's like, oh man, like you could get more of this, but you need to learn how to talk.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that I was like, fuck man, they don't pay attention. They don't care with advice. They're kind of like, okay, cool, yeah, I know. And they just do their thing,
I guess it's the joy of an individual sport. People are going to kind of take their own paths. I agree with you 100%, but I think that's just part of BMX.
It is. Well, now things are going to change, obviously, with the Olympics. You no longer just do things as your own. Now, like in the case of qualifying to the Olympics, you need two guys from the same country to qualify an individual sport. Is kind of.
Do you think some of these governing bodies are going to send the guys to media training and whatnot?
I hope they do.
Yeah.
I don't know. The UK is the one that are hitting it hard. I don't know if they have that in their plan. Maybe later on.
I think it was when Levi's first came into BMX, they made all the guys do the training. And I think it was Morgan Wade was telling me, he's like, I hated it. I hated the idea, but it was like the best thing I ever did.
Yeah, I remember Napolitan. So I was really close with Anthony. He lived at Woodward too. And I remember he getting a lot of interviews as well. And he was like, I don't know if like a mentor. But I definitely looked up to him to, dude, he's got the package. I need to be as close to him as I can, like learn his things, because he was able to speak to cameras. He had this confidence that I didn't have, or maybe I had the confidence, but I didn't know how to talk.
Yeah.
And obviously hanging around with Anthony, I learned many things. I remember they did that, and it's crazy because it's nothing. It's not that difficult. You just gotta like take a moment to think of your idea and then say it, like even right now I feel like I'm speaking slower to get that point across.
Yeah.
If we're just talking, I talk faster. I don't care if I'm more careless. But yes, it is important, especially riding, being the best bike rider in the world. It's just one piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
You need to be professional. You need to know how to speak to people. You need to know how to speak to cameras. Two different types of speaking. you need to know how to dress, you need to know how to act, the whole, I think obviously in BMX you have the crazy part of the antics, and in my time when I got into riding, that was a huge part of it. But there's a reason why Mira was Mira, and maybe some of the other guys never were at that level. Dave had the ultimate package, well spoken, good looking, he had best bike rider, he looked good, he had his style, he had it all. He was crazy.
No, I agree. Dave's was always the type of guy that you could put in front of a bunch of rich businessmen, and he represented BMX, and he'd do a good job.
Yeah. So, I don't think everyone can do that. It's a big task to do. But,
I agree, yeah.
Being the best is not just being the best bike rider and you're kind of cool with the cool people. It's like a lot of other things,
Yeah.
Like we had to do a press conference in Saudi Arabia. And I've done a bunch of press conferences at this point, so I'm not too intimidated. But, we do it in English. I can speak English. It's fine. I was with Alex Jumelin. He speaks English as well. But, sometimes the questions come off kind of crazy. And it will throw you off. And I think he threw Alex off a little bit. And he fixed it. But, one of the things that you learn is like, if somebody, if you want to talk about, your blue wheel, and somebody asks you about your frame, you're like, oh, my frame is good, but you need to know about my blue wheel. My blue wheel is amazing, and yada yada. And then you go into what you want to talk about it. How to redirect the question to what you want to talk about.
So you're basically saying how to screw up an interview during an interview right now.
No, you want to talk about something specific. Fuck them.
So, hey, wrapping things up here. How old were you when you moved to the U.S.? Were you 18, 19?
Let me think. I got my athlete visa when I was 21.
But you've been here pretty much full-time before then.
Kind of. I was here for about 5 months because my visa ran out at 6.
Okay.
So I was left before.
So like a little more than a third of your life.
Yeah. When I was 19, I came for the first time. That's when I came for 2 weeks. I ended up staying like 4 or 5 months. And then 2005, I did the same, stayed like 5 months. And then 2006, I got my athlete visa. And I still stay around 6, 7 months. I already had my visa, so I was able to come and go. But I still went home. It was later on that I decided to actually move everything here. Get a house in the States and just live full time in America.
Where do you see yourself living in retirement?
Ooh, that's crazy. I feel like once I'm done competing and everything, I'll probably take a long trip around the world and see. I've been hoarding miles for years. And I want to see the world. I want to see other things. I'm very grateful that BMX is taking me to very different places. We went to Malaysia. We went to Saudi Arabia, all around the United States. Been to Salar in Bolivia, I've been to very cool places. And I would like to do more of that in other areas that BMX will take me right now. But after that, I don't know, man. I like Hong Kong. I like South Africa a lot. I like Estonia a little bit. I don't know if I would live there just because it's so cold. Maybe I'll be in Argentina for a while, try to spend more time with my family. Obviously, this last 10 years, it's been probably the hardest part was to stay away from my family for so long. I only see them once, twice a year. A couple of years ago, I forgot. I didn't see my mom for 2 years. And I was like, holy shit. Dude, I flew to Hong Kong for 1 day just for her birthday, and then I flew back. She was there at the time. And yeah, maybe try to do more things with the family. And after that, I don't know, man. I really enjoy my life in America. I like the United States. It's easy. Everything's possible. Opportunities there. So.
And you're a full-on citizen now.
Yeah. So I became a citizen this year. It's been a 10, 12-year process. But yeah, so I don't really see myself switching nationalities to live in somewhere else. But I wish to go back to Venezuela at some point. I don't know if to live full time, but definitely want to go. And I'm from there. Definitely want to. My heart will always be there. So yeah, I don't know. It's a hard question. I think after the around the world trip, I'll probably hope to have a better idea of what I want to do.
Okay, so the last question everybody has to answer: who is your favorite bike rider of all time?
Dave Mirra. Of all time, Dave Mirra. Yeah, for sure.
No close second, just Dave Mirra. I figured you would say that. That's a good answer. It's a good answer.
Also, Bestwick. Bestwick is crazy because...
But if you have to pick one, it's Dave Mirra.
his stuff because
You have to pick one.
well, then David is. Sorry, James, but I think James will probably agree with me, and it's crazy because both of them helped me out a lot in my formative years of riding, and the crazy TV stuff was happening due to and all that. X Games and Bestwick is an amazing rider and vert, park, dirt, street, anything you put him, he can ride everything. He's great guide off the bike too. He will give you a really hard time. But yeah, Bestwick and Dave for sure.
Dave, just one.
All right, Dave Mir.
All right, you good?
I am.
All right, that does it for this episode. Thank you for listening. Follow Daniel Dhers on Instagram at Daniel Dhers, no space. And remember, it doesn't count if you don't pull the rollback. Goodbye.